Okay, welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy Whickmas, one and all. It's not quite Whickmas yet, but 'tis the season. And to celebrate, today we are going to do a call-in show, a good old-fashioned co-hosted Get It Off Your Chest with Wick and Allison. Um, Allison, thank you for agreeing to join us. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Oh, so far so good. Uh, we still have plenty of time for things to go terribly wrong. Um, we'll see how it goes. Call-in shows are always interesting because you never know kind of what's coming in, who's going to bring what's going to happen. Could be interesting. It could be a lot of nothing. Like sometimes no one calls in, and that's sad. But it is what it is. But gang, if you're watching this show and you're sitting there and you're like, well, I want to call in. How do I call in? Well, there's a very easy way to do it. Allison, can you tell them how?
Wick has a server on this website called Discord, and he can put a link to this place in his chat, and you can click on it, and you can come here and talk.
That's pretty much it. So if you're in my Twitch chat, all you have to do is !Discord, and you click on that link. You accept the rules, and then you jump backstage. And once you're down, we'll pull you in. I'll try to get people in the order they come, though sometimes if it fills up, it becomes a problem, right? And I'll just pick people at random. But yeah, it should be fun. Let me put that link in the YouTube chat as well. First of all, 𝕾𝖎𝖎, hello. Nice to see you. Firechild, glad you can catch it live. Always interesting to see you, and I hope you'll call in today, but we will see. We will see. Allison, is there anything you'd like to talk about today?
Wait, let me. Um, oof. You start. Do you have anything? I have something that I can bring up, but I mean,
But
you start.
we have a caller. Let's get them in. Let's see what they have to say, okay? Because I got some things I want to talk about too, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes, okay? We got a couple hours. It'll be fun. Let's bring in the first guest. Hello, you're live. I can't hear you if you're talking though.
Oh, better?
Oh yeah,
We
we
got
can
you.
hear you now. What's up?
You've got a doggy as well. Mine is out of sight, but he's right here.
That's my daughter.
Fair.
So,
Oh, she's
yeah,
so
it's
cute.
a call-in show, so yeah, it is a very pretty doggy. But what you got for us? What's on your mind?
I kind of wanted to talk about the situation in Yemen with the Houthis in particular and how that's been unfolding, especially actions that came up this week that kind of affect the US in a very bad way for Biden and kind of what he can do to fix it.
Can you elaborate?
All right, so I want to give coverage to the Yemen situation in the Middle East as well as the Iranian-backed militia called the Houthis, and also I also want to jump into how it could already hurt the US. Blah, blah. I just basically said that. So on the campaign trail, Biden said he wanted to expose the Saudis as bad actors that they were, the catalyst in this being the death of Khashoggi, the journalist that worked at WAPO. Um, this resulted in changes that Biden took in office. He declared the Houthis were no longer a terrorist organization. As well, he stopped selling weapons to the Saudis, thus ending our aid in the conflict in Yemen between the Saudis and the Houthis. These were week one priorities. He did these almost immediately, and it kind of affected how our relationship with the Saudis and oil went in the Middle East. Uh, I make an argument, and it's kind of unrelated, but Biden had a lot of year one blunders when it came to oil and gas that saw gas prices inflate
Okay,
before
okay.
inflation and the
But
Ukraine war.
sure,
That's over.
as we know currently, however, the U.S. is sending a multinational strike force into the area to deal with the Houthis. I don't know what exactly that means, what they're going to do precisely, but I know that a strike force has been sent, and we'll probably see. So when you say like year one blunders, fair enough, right? But obviously he's changed his position if this is what is happening, correct?
Yeah, oh, for sure. Our crude oil drilling is now at a point where it was higher than any point in Trump's presidency as of today. So he really went back on a lot of those oil and gas promises he made on the campaign trail in year one actions in a way that is really showing up in his economy. It's trending in a great direction right now.
Cool. So what do you want to talk about it?
Well, more I want to talk about the fact that with the Houthis, after October 7th, they've done over 100 attacks with hundreds of drones and rockets, most of which are being shot down by the U.S. But specifically, the fact that the U.S. has kind of been ignoring the Houthis on that. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that they took the side against Saudi Arabia. I really think like people are overlooking what this strait, it's the Bab Mendy Strait and the Suez Canal in particular. These two are like 10% of world's economic trade. Like this is a big deal. And the fact that it's now been going on for almost 2 months, we haven't done anything about it's like really hurts. It hurts prices of things. To the point also, it really hurts our maritime hegemony, where we see one of the promises America made when they kind of became the world's police is that we said we keep trade safe. Now, the Houthis are funded by Iran. Iran is an ally to China, and China is currently trying to undermine us on the world stage to be the people kind of in charge of world peace. And so I kind of see this as like China giving the green light for Iran to disrupt world peace under the United States' watch. And it's just something I get that we formed an international coalition and there's an international strike force going in there, but we know how to handle this. We've handled it in the past, and I really feel like a really strong strike to Iran, specifically
To Iran.
pertaining to
So not the Houthis,
Iran.
but you're advocating right now for a strike against Iran. Can you elaborate on what that means? Like, are we talking an airstrike? Are we talking targeted uh, bombing of infrastructure? Are we talking about drone striking leadership? What are we talking about here?
No deaths. You can't. You would traditionally in the past we would do kind of like what Israel does in Gaza, where we would tell them we're going to strike, give them X amount of time to clear their people out, and blow up some missile facility or something like that that they would use for war. Nothing like a hospital or anything like that. And that would just give them a really strong sign that we're holding Iran responsible for what their proxies do.
What are your thoughts, Allison? What you got? Are you a Iran striker?
I don't know, man. I feel kind of like a pussy, but I'm just like, can we please not? Can we just please like try to avoid war with Iran at all costs? Like that's mainly an intuitive, like impulsive position. Okay, I get it. But like I'm just like keep fighting the proxies if you have to. Who was the Republican? I think it was Tim Scott that was either on the GOP stage or off of it, was like, fuck this, like proxy fighting, cut the head off the snake, like strike Iran. I was like, whenever he said that, I was like, please no. But like I'm not saying that's a super informed foreign policy position of mine, right? It's just like an impulsive, like, please stop. No.
No, I get it. I think that Americans are fairly war weary, for various reasons. I don't think. Look, Houthis need to be dealt with. They can't be allowed to continue to disrupt trade through these ports, right? It does make up a significant portion of the world's shipping trade. It disrupts supply lines, and basically what they're doing is piracy. It has to stop. It has to be stopped. That said, I don't know if escalating by striking at Iran is, at least right now, the correct move. I want to see how effective the strike is against the Houthis before we make any other moves or decisions. If we can curtail this and get it to stop, right, through simply striking them directly, fair enough. Now, if it does not work and it continues to be a problem, then we can look at further actions. But I don't think it's a desperate situation yet. I don't agree with the strike against Iran at this time. Does that make sense?
I get it. Well, think of it this way. So when there was a ceasefire called by Hamas is a solo group. They're not technically affiliated with Hezbollah, any of these any of these groups that even inside Gaza, the IDJ, I think they're called, or there's
Islamic Jihad?
Syria. Yeah, Islamic Jihad group. There's Syria, there's Iraq, there's Yemen, all these, and Lebanon. All these all these groups are not supposed to be affiliated together. But as soon as Hamas called a ceasefire, all of them stopped, except for the Houthis. All of them stopped right then and there. And it shows that there's some sort of central leadership behind them. And we know that Iran is funding them. Unfortunately, Biden's administration has been like the goal of Democrat foreign policy over the last 20 years has to try to pull Iran away from China and Russia, which I'm not going to judge if it's good or bad. No one votes on foreign policy. No one cares. But that's been their goal. So Biden's tethered to this peace deal with Iran, while Iran's currently right now selling missiles to Russia to fight against Ukraine. So we're kind of really letting one of our adversaries' strong allies off the hook for at least being the backing of bad actors in the world. And I feel like we have enough proof.
You say off the hook as if us striking against their proxies is doing nothing. It's not. If we can like defang them through that way, I think it's my principle here is I want to avoid escalation if at all possible. And I think that while we talk about some of the goals of these powers, they want it to escalate. That is their goal. They are trying to poke and poke and poke and push and push and push until something goes pear-shaped, if you will. And I just think that while, yes, what they're doing is a problem, there are other ways to combat it than just a direct strike against Iran. But I'm not taking it off the table entirely. Does that make sense? I just don't think it's okay now. I would like to see. Right. I would like to see it. I would like to see what this strike force has, what the effects it is before we make any other decisions. Let's let it do its job. Let's see what happens. Because I'm going to be real with you, and maybe you know, Allison. I'm not sure. This. What is this, right? Like, what is the strike force planning to do precisely? Is it just simply going to police the area, or is it going to take a more proactive taking it to the Houthi stance? I don't know. Do you?
I'm not too aware. I don't think they'd release those plans. The thing is, I'm less prone to believe like
it says protect the Israeli entity and to protect Israeli ships. So
yeah, I don't know what that means.
And then the Houthis say, quote, it, referring to the coalition, aims to encourage the Zionist entity to continue its brutal crimes against the Palestinian people in Gaza. This coalition contradicts international law and does not protect maritime navigation, but rather threatens it and seeks to militarize the Red Sea for the benefit of the Israeli entity. Because you can't call it a country if you're the Houthis. So it's a Zionist entity.
Fair enough. I mean, we know what the Houthis want and what they're trying to do. We understand that. I think that the devil's in the details here. I want to see how exactly we go about protecting and policing things. Like when they talk about like Israeli-owned ships, what they mean is ships that people who are Jewish or who have Israeli citizenship own. The people running the ships or on the ships are very rarely Israeli citizens, right? They're very rarely involved at all. They're just business dealings, and they're just economic actors. And yeah, they need, again, it needs to be stopped. But yeah, I don't know, like if we're going to simply continue to shoot down drones and missiles and things that they continue to shoot at us, or if we're going to go and start taking out their vessels and combat capabilities. I don't know. So
I'm all for strength. Again, what you're saying is 100% accurate, and we just kind of have a different bar is all. But yeah, I'm all for strength through deterrence, and we have to kind of show you attack trade vessels that are unrelated to combat. Swift action needs to be taken, and not just against the people that did it, but against the people funding it and giving the orders at the top. I think a nice strike on Iran is merited. I don't think anyone should have to die from it. Maybe just like an infrastructure strike again that we warn them about, but something to show Iran, hey, we mean fucking business.
Okay, but to be fair, like even if no one dies, like just striking another country seems like pretty aggressive.
If it's less than the Moab that Trump dropped on Afghanistan, then I think we still got some room to. It's a statement attack. You're not actually like attacking them as
Yeah, I
I don't know.
understand. It's a
But
signal.
when
Yeah.
Trump hit Soleimani, I was like, oh God, I'm so afraid. Like I didn't like that, to be fair. So it's not just if Biden were to do it, I wouldn't like it.
I get now. I don't like it either, but the United States went into Iraq and took over the country. We won the war with the Iraqi army in like 3 weeks. Iran's got a smaller, less funded army. They'd be crushed. They know they don't stand a chance against the United States. It would have to.
Was the Iraq war legal?
I don't know.
I think it was an aggressive war, probably, but which I think is
I'm just more trying to quell your fears of the fact that Iran isn't really a world stage actor. You shouldn't be too afraid of that. We'll be all right.
No, I just feel bad for I don't know.
The problem.
My opinions are not. I'm not trying to act like my opinions are super developed. For it, just a lot of disclaimers.
All good.
I know it's like very brave to be like war bad, no war please. Like I'm not trying to like be that person.
It should be the baseline. You're 100% correct. It should be involved in the conversation, and the baseline war should not be the first result. But here we are, so we should be strong and deterrent against our enemy.
It's one of those things where I worry about entanglement. And what I mean by that is, as you said, a lot of these groups are connected, and what we do does have ripple effects. As you did mention in the beginning, China has greenlit, I believe at least, greenlit Iran to fuck around, if you will. So again, while Iran, I think we'd be handy against them, it would still be blood and treasure. We'd be spending a lot of resources on something that we did not have to do. And China has every intention, I think, of invading Taiwan. And I worry and I wonder, when is it going to happen? I think it's only a matter of time. And I think that what they're waiting for is either for the U.S. to get too bogged down in other areas, right? Like with Ukraine, with Israel, Palestine, now with the Houthis going around. If we struck in Iran, right, that would just be, again, possible entanglements that we can get mired down in. And I want to keep our forces free to respond to threats that may or may not arise in other areas. But thanks for calling in, Tyler. I really appreciate you. Is there anything else you want to say?
No, that's it. I got my whole notes out and everything.
To the void with him. Oh, what a wonderful Christmas Whickmas miracle, right? We had a caller in. We didn't have to wait 20 minutes for someone to get brave enough to call in. So I do appreciate him coming on. I do appreciate him bringing this up. It is something to think about, right? We are a world power, and we are the strongest world power. That comes with certain responsibilities, like protecting international trade. If we do not protect international trade, it will have immense effects on our economy, not to mention the world's economy. And if the world's economy goes to shit, other things tend to go to shit too. So it's a worthwhile topic to discuss and think about. Are you ready for the next caller, Allison? Any other thoughts on that before we bring him in?
Okay, to strike another country, even if it's just an infrastructural strike, nobody dies, you make sure you're still you're striking another sovereign state's land. And I do feel like the connection for that has to be greater than they are funding a rebel group in another country that is disrupting commerce in the Red Sea, right? And I think it's fine to militaristically defend the commercial ships in the Red Sea that are being aggressed upon by the Houthis. I think that's perfectly fine. But I resist striking Iran because this is happening.
Fair enough. Let's bring in the next contestant on this show. And gang, if you want to call in, now there's a little bit more people here. If you want to call in, you may. And how do you do that? You hit !Discord and chat. You click on the link. You accept the rules, and you jump backstage. And when you're backstage, we'll bring you on, and we'll talk to you about whatever you like. It doesn't have to be foreign policy. It could be anything you want. If you got some beef with me, if you have an issue that no one's talking about, all these things. Are people siding with the Houthis? I don't know of anyone siding with the Houthis, but after October 7th, I'm not sure, right? Like, I am sure that there's some dumbass out there who's like, piracy is just, this is not really piracy, it's them protecting their native waters because they're indigenous to the region.
In self-defense.
Yeah, god damn it. Now I can totally hear their voice in my head. Let me bring in the next caller. Hello!
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Doing okay. If you hear a little bit of bumping, that's because I'm playing something while talking to y'all.
What are you playing?
I'm pulling a Destiny. I'm playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, the zombies mode.
Are you winning?
I mean, I'm surviving. I guess that's the win condition.
Fair enough.
Yep.
Go ahead.
So, I don't know if I know when I was on here last, I brought up it was the one before last. Oh, game kicked me out. I brought up the morgue pie situation. You were talking. Yeah. So I don't know if let me turn my camera on. I don't know why I turned it off. Channel change. So did you see any of the Twitch TOS changes that came pretty soon afterwards?
Yeah, we talked about this. We talked about this yesterday, but it's fine. They had an artistic nudity thing that they did, but they rolled it back.
Because, like 48 hours.
Well, people decided to take them up on the offer of presenting artistic nudity. So,
question.
Yeah, it's like, go ahead.
So I understand that there was the phenomenon of like women doing the like quasi topless streams. And then there was this artistic nudity policy. Was that written in a way so as to allow the quasi-topless streams, or to clarify that we wouldn't prefer no quasi-topless streams? I honestly do not know.
The way that they had written it was more so for like if you were drawing, like you're doing an art stream, and you ended up like drawing a more classical like piece with nudity in it. That was a quote unquote allowed as artistic nudity, but they never really defined what artistic meant in that case. So
because I understand that people were allowed to body paint like even before, right?
Yeah.
I just am wondering like if this policy like because it happened like right after these women were doing this, so I feel like it had to address it. Like, did it allow it or not allow it? Because I understand what happened after. After there was like a shit ton of like hentai and furry porn, and they were like, "Oh no, just kidding. We can't have this."
Basically, it implicitly allowed it because there wasn't really a definition for artistic.
I guess I laugh at the idea that they wrote this policy to allow the like fake topless streamers, and then they accidentally allowed like the most disgusting degenerate like drawings ever. I just love that, like the idea of that accident. I don't know if that's what actually happened or not, but it is very funny to me.
Yeah, like it's like the thing is with a fair amount of about Twitch streamers, it's like you give the degenerate ones, you give them an inch and they will take it all the way across the field.
Yeah, it's, you gotta be real clear on where those lines are.
Yeah, be real specific.
Or they will...
Like there was a...
Yeah, go ahead.
There was like... Because like there's this one VTuber who... it was an image that was floating around pretty soon after the policy change. Like, she straight up had her a nude model and like a couple different pieces of like super not safe for work fan art on her stream. And like that was like probably one of the most like, you know, boundary pushing examples of streaming. Actually, a little bit of I found it on Twitter from 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙. Apparently now the streamers, the IRL streamers, they're doing the censor bars on their nipples and their private parts. They're trying to see if that's pushing the boundaries. Like, come on, can we just not, please? Like
It's
this is not like
so are you happy with the rollback though? Like I guess I'll ask you this. Are you
um
happy with how Twitch has handled this?
I mean not I mean it's good that I think it's a good thing they rolled it back because honestly this stuff doesn't belong on the platform because like I'll say this, just chatting in IRL and stuff like that was already kind of like they obviously wanted to widen their audience a bit, so of course they opened those categories up, but that did open the door to less, um, family friendly, quote unquote family friendly streams. It's what led to it was a part of it broadened the titty streamer meta, and then it opened up the hot tub meta, and then we had the topless meta, and now we're having this black bar meta. So like I think they're like
Lots of metas.
lots of metas, and really
When will
like
we have the wholesome Santa hat wearer meta? I don't know, but I'm hoping to start that soon.
Go stream Fortnite.
Stream Fortnite.
Like that's where a fair amount of the wholesome streams tend to be. But even then, like sometimes you just find, and not even the degenerate stuff. Just like you definitely see, not family friendly stuff. But yeah, I'd say if you really want to be family friendly, go play Fortnite.
Well, I don't know if my show's exactly family friendly.
Well, okay, tragic.
What's up, Allison?
Okay, so 𝕵𝖎𝖎 tweeted. I sent it to Wick earlier, but it was a screenshot from a 𝕵𝖎𝖎 tweet, and it's like Pornhub revealed the most searched video game titles and characters on their website, and number one by a fucking long shot is Fortnite.
It specifically, yeah. Something that really irked me when I saw that list. Chun-Li was one of the top characters. She was listed as a Fortnite character. It's like what in the like Street Fighter.
Yeah.
Have y'all heard of it?
Apparently not.
Like she's literally called the first lady of fighting games. Like, oh my goodness. As a fighting game fan, that hurt my soul.
Allison, I'm curious for a female perspective on this because I talked with Rico yesterday about this. I've talked with this gentleman before about this. What is the female perspective on the current zeitgeist in streaming when it comes to women? What are your thoughts? Come on, woman, tell us.
So I mean, we're in like a kind of unique area of Twitch right now that doesn't seem very representative of like the majority of the website. It seems like the majority of the website is video games. Like it seems like the video game streamers are like the enormous ones and the ones that consistently have an audience, and like
I've seen some enormous female streamers, if you know what I mean, but go on.
Like it just, I mean, I don't know. I recently encountered a literal third grader like watching Twitch on his phone because he's watching a Minecraft streamer, and I was like, oh, you know what I mean? Because it's like obviously like some like sketchy shit goes on this website. I don't know. It is like it's a little shady if you're like a woman and you're like being real sexual on this website that you know what it's for. Like it's primary. Like there's like it's like just drowning in teenage boys. Like that's by design. Like it's the fucking point. So it seems like, bro, I don't know. I'm like not trying to come on too strong, but it's a little like.
Oh. No, I don't like it. Honestly, that was like my point when we had talked about this before. It's like this is it was built as a video game streaming site. You got the minimum age to join is 13 years old. Like it's why the heck are we allowing effectively porn promotion on this platform for starting with young boys? It's completely out of the pale.
I want to ask you, Allison, like as someone who you're not a streamer yourself, but you come onto streams, you engage in content creation to a certain extent. Do you feel any like pressure or any kind of reticence to become a streamer simply because that's kind of seen as the way to do it? Like, what are your thoughts on that? Does that make sense? I don't know if I worded that.
No, I get what you mean. Honestly, I don't want to be a streamer for just like other reasons. Like I'm sure that wouldn't be fun. It wouldn't be fun to deal with like creepy shit. But like I just don't want to do it for other reasons. Fair
enough.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for calling in. Is there anything else you'd like to tell us before you have to go? Doesn't matter. To the void. Ha 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 ha. There he goes. No, it's been too long since I've voided people, so it's nice to have it back, right? It's nice to do one of these call-in streams. Yeah, it's one of those things where I don't like. Look, I'm torn on this. As I told Rico yesterday, I'm torn on this. I don't want to censor people who want to engage in that kind of thing, but there's a time and there's a place, and I don't feel that Twitch has adequate safeguards in place to keep kids from stumbling across this kind of thing. And these people are monetizing their sexuality, which is fine on appropriate sites, but I don't think that's fine here, simply because of the presence of minors. But yeah, who knows? Yeah, so cruel, Wick. I am a cruel, cruel master. And if you, dear friends, want to be voided eventually, all you have to do is join the stream, because we got some room. Like, I don't know why Tyler's still there, but backstage is, other than him, empty. So now's your time to shine. Allison, though, you did say you had a couple things you wanted to bring up, and I'm curious what's on your mind while we wait.
Hey, the main thing was that I saw a certain fight, not really fight, but like argument between 𝕶𝖓 and Fairy Queen on your stream about the legitimacy of sex addiction as a concept. And where
do you stand on sex addiction? Is it a myth or is it true?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know that we know as a species, honestly. But I mean, okay, there's this guy, 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙. I follow him on Twitter. He's a PhD of some kind. I think he's technically a sexologist. He might be a clinical psychologist with like a specialty in like sex stuff, okay? But he firmly believes that sex addiction is like a cultural hysteria, like a myth. And he's like, there's a reason it's been, okay, I'm like hesitant. I think the DSM is a pretty political document, and it basically acknowledges as much in its intro. It says, like, of course, yeah, like, I work in a law office and they literally have a copy of the DSM-5 in the office. Like, nobody in that office is a doctor, right? But that book determines like custody proceedings, how much damages you can get in a civil claim, like whether or not you go to jail or a psych ward sometimes. Like, it's a really socially relevant book, and the people who write it know that. And so they aren't just taking clinical concerns into mind when they write it, okay? So I am hesitant to be like, well, it's not in the DSM. They decided it's not in the DSM. Like, you know, problem solved. That's simply like, as far as the analysis goes, like, no, I reject that. But also, there are reasons why it was rejected from the DSM-5. They cannot seem to verify that it exists independently of other mental illnesses. Of course, people have like problematic, like masturbatory habits, like problematic, like sexual behaviors that they engage in, but they say almost always these people have other mental illnesses going on. And we know that serious mental illness like can affect the sex drive and like one's impulse control in profound ways. So is it actually this separate thing? And also, I kind of am sympathetic to the idea that, like, I know Erudite was saying like behavioral addictions, even though they're compulsions, they're still addictions in nature. And I'm like, I get that perspective. And she said gambling addiction, and like, I get that perspective, but I'm also sympathetic to the idea that, like, hey, let's reserve the term addiction for substances or things which actually induce like physiologic dependency, you know?
Do we have any Wick addicts in chat? Wick addicts in chat? Throw some subs at me, some super chats, things like that. Wick addicts, come on. Engage in your compulsion. This is the signal. This is the time. I'm throwing up the flag, right? And we're rallying. Okay. But continue, please.
I mean, a gambling addict, if he doesn't go to a casino, even if he really, really, really wants to, he's not going to end up in a hospital from casino withdrawals, okay? But if you've ever been around a benzo addict who has not taken their Xanax, or like an opioid addict who has not taken their Oxy, like, these people will oftentimes need medical attention, like, promptly. You know what I mean? Because they are addicted to a chemically addictive substance. So it's like, I do feel like there is this desire to like label certain like problematic behavioral habits, like problematic gambling, problematic masturbation, as addictions, as a way of sort of like making them more sympathetic, because we feel worse for people if we say they're addicted to something than if we just say they have a bad habit and low impulse control. Which, like, I think that a person with a bad habit and low impulse control is still sympathetic, and we should still have compassion for them and, like, etc. So for me, I'd like, this is not so morally loaded, but other people will say, like, oh, like, you're just saying that gambling addicts are pieces of shits who don't care about their family's financial future. Like, no, I don't think that at all. Like, I don't know. In high school, like many, many years ago,
Go ahead.
I had skin picking problems, which is like, I think they consider it to be like a compulsive behavior, like linked to anxiety or whatever. Obviously, you see my nails now. I don't have skin picking issues anymore, right? But like, I've literally seen people say they have skin picking addictions. I'm like, that is not what that is. Like, I just do not. Again, you're not gonna need a doctor because you didn't pick at your face. You're just not, you know.
I just look. I'm hesitant to excuse behaviors that I see happening when we start calling things addictions, when we start calling for sympathy. I like sympathy. We should have empathy, but too often we weaponize empathy. Let me tell you what I mean by that. People will engage in terrible behaviors, and then they will say, well, I'm sorry, it was my illness, it was my addiction, it was my issue, it was my whatever. And that is used as sort of like a get out of jail free card to not really be held responsible for actions. And also on a lesser scale, right? And I'm not even talking bad actions. I'm just talking about weakness in general. We are excusing weakness as it's okay. Can I talk, and I know this is a little off topic, but I want to talk about the Joe Cat situation. Are you familiar?
Okay, I looked up your tweet about it because you mentioned it. And yeah, I saw it. I got the bear. I don't know this person's backstory.
Well, I guess to tell my audience what if they don't know what I'm talking about, which is fair, right? Because
I know only as much as the tweet and his like post or whatever on that link. What that said.
Foot longer thing that he did. Yeah, it's a content creator recently that had a animation he did, a clip, a little short video song thing. It went viral. It got a lot of attention, but it also got a lot of negative attention. He received a lot of harassment for it. It was simply a song about him liking girls and all the different types of girls he liked: fat ones, short ones, skinny ones, tall ones, etc. Cute enough, right? It's just a silly little thing. Apparently, though, he recently decided to release a tweet longer saying he was quitting because of the harassment he's been receiving. You're letting the terrorists win, gang. You're letting the terrorists win. Why? And I make this tweet, and I know it's a hot take, and I know a lot of people were kind of upset about it, but it surprises me the levels of defense people will run for this guy's decision. I understand it's his decision. I understand it's his life, but is it wrong of me to not respect weakness like that? Is that wrong of me?
No, I mean, I think it's fair to, I mean, I don't know. I think it's fine for a person to be like, I'm really sensitive. I'm not cut out to have a shit ton of people on the internet like roast my ass. Like, I'm not willing to put hours into something just to have people tear it the fuck apart, right? Because like, obviously you implicitly sign up for that when you start like releasing highly edited YouTube videos. There's always the chance that like somebody's gonna pull it up on a stream that like is maybe a hostile audience, and like it is what it is. And I think it's fine if you recognize like it's just not for me. Like, that's okay. I do think it is literally so dumb to like put out a tweet longer and admit that you are that type of person, because they're just gonna come for you harder. And it's like, it is like,
well, yeah, you're putting a target on your back. What you're doing, like, look, it's not an airport. You don't need to announce your departure. Okay,
exactly.
I understand if you got like issues, right? If you're a sensitive Sally or whatever, and you again, you're not built for it. That's fine. But what you're doing when you make a scene out of it is you're putting a target on your back, because people now know that they can fuck with you and that it will work. And oh my God, it's going to be open season if he ever comes back, because they know it will be very, very work. So even for his own like mental stability, it's fine if you want to take a break, but you don't let them know that they've affected you like that. Why have we valorized this idea that why have we valorized this weakness? It's fine if you look, we're all weak. I'm weak in certain ways. I am. There are certain things I'm just not cut out for, but I don't celebrate the fact that I'm not cut out for it. I don't defend the fact that I'm not cut out for it. I don't like pretend that it makes me a good person that I'm not cut out for it. I don't like. Would it be better if I was cut out for it? Yes, in almost every instance. I can't think of an instance where it wouldn't be, right? So why are we valorizing this guy quitting? Under what other circumstances? I'm sorry for ranting, but it's something I'm very passionate about. Under what other circumstance would we valorize someone getting harassment and then quitting, right? Like, you got to stand up for yourself. You got to stand up for yourself.
I almost wondered, this is like cringe psychoanalysis of a stranger, okay? But I almost wondered, I was like, is this an appellative thing? Like, are you trying to just get, because he noted he's not immediately quitting. He's got certain like projects that he's going to continue to do. And then he insinuated that he was going to like, fade out. Like, he's not immediately exiting. And I'm wondering, like, are you trying to just get like flooded with a bunch of like, please don't leave, we love you, don't listen to the haters? Like, are you trying to just get like a mountain of that and then like come out at the end and be like, I decided to stay after all, guys? Like, I don't know this person. Maybe they really are wanting to quit and they just like made the questionable decision to write about it. But I almost wondered if it wasn't that.
Yeah, I don't know the guy. I have no idea, right? I have no again, the only exposure I've had to him is this video, his twit longer, and then the responses around it. But again, like, people want to defend this guy's decision. No, I think he's made, like, I guess my question, and if you're in the audience and you think I'm wrong, please call in because I'd love to talk to you about this. But like, I guess the question in my mind is, just because he can obviously quit if he wants to, but we can recognize that not every decision someone makes is the right decision or a good decision. We have to recognize that what we do has an effect on other people in other communities. And while no, you should still look out for you do have kind of a responsibility to stand up against bullies, I think.
Breaking news!
Yeah, I see that. So gang, if you're...
Wait, do you see what I'm seeing?
The Colorado Supreme Court?
Yeah!
Yeah. So this just got released, like literally just got released. Apparently, and again, this is breaking, so I don't have all the details yet. The Colorado Supreme Court has ruled that Trump is ineligible to be on the ballot. That's pretty big. First of all, I'm not a legal expert, but do you know if a state can even do that?
Yeah.
For a
yeah,
major
well,
party?
I mean, it's obviously subject to appeal to,
Sure.
The U.S. Supreme Court will hear it. But yeah, I mean, like, states run their own state elections, yes. So that's why, like, I've heard certain conservative commentators say that, like Ben Shapiro specifically, he rejects Trump's "the election was stolen," but he has this nuanced, the election was actually rigged by Democratic legislatures in these blue states who laxed the election laws, and he has that take, but the fact is, like, the states have the authority to do that. States have the authority to run their own state elections, and obviously these decisions are, like, subject to appeal by the U.S. state court. My dog is having a moment, like, in the background. So he's... I
was wondering what was happening, but...
He's doing his Philly spins and his, like, happy, like, snorts and things. Well, he's self-conscious. Yeah, he just looked... He saw me making fun of him. Okay, but... But yeah, no, states can do that. I mean, Asa Hutchinson, former governor of Arkansas, had, like, an appearance on the stage, okay, super socially conservative guy, former DEA, like, war on drugs perpetrator, right? But he is anti-Trump, and he is a big conservative law guy, okay, big conservative legal scholar guy, and he firmly believes that Trump is constitutionally ineligible to run because of his actions on January 6th. And that's obviously contested, but yeah, no, definitely people believe it, and, like, I think it's a question that the Supreme Court should address.
It is. I think this is probably going to be fast-tracked. This is Very
I'm gonna
interesting.
release my hound. Okay, I can still hear you, but I'm just gonna
Sure,
let
that's
him
fine.
out.
This is
Yes.
very interesting because there's a lot of angles to this. I don't know if I hope you can still hear me.
Yes, I can still hear you.
Excellent. Obviously, the states have the right to do this. Fair. It's in the Constitution. I think that one, that if this goes through, if this is upheld by the Supreme Court, and I have no idea if it will, to be clear, I have no idea. If it is, I think that it will have two major effects. One, I don't think Trump will win Colorado. I think that will be an extra barrier that it's going to go blue, and almost certainly. I still think the margin will be higher than other write-in candidates because he's such a huge name recognition, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I just think that extra few thousand that he would have gotten had his name been on the ballot, it'll flip it, right? Like Colorado's already pretty close. But the second thing that I'm worried about is that it will kind of feed into the oppressor narrative that Trumpists have. Like you, as you said, the Ben Shapiro's nuanced Democrats are rigging the election. This will feed into that heavily. It will. I just don't. I don't know. I don't know what the right call is here.
It's this issue because it's like on one hand, you can't like not enforce the law because a person has, oh, they would say you can't not enforce the law just because someone has extreme populist swing and it's going to have like nasty side effects. What message does that send to like like would be like populist rulers, like eccentric leaders in the future? Like nothing good, right? But then on the other hand, there is this just there is this just like this kind of pragmatic, like regardless of what the law is, it's like it's so scary to let Trump run as an outsider again somehow, because it's like everybody was like, how is he going to position himself as like an outsider, anti-deep state guy when he's literally the incumbent, when he literally was the state for like 4 years, and we all remember it because it just happened. And it's like, this is how, is like he points to all these court cases, he points to the fact that they won't even let good Americans vote for him on the ballot like normal. Like, I don't know why I just made Trump a hillbilly, but you know what I mean. Like,
no, I understand what you mean exactly, because I can see the arguments now. People will be arguing that this is just more evidence of the deep state blocking Trump from what he deserves, and if it wasn't for this, Trump would win. So I worry. I think that I just don't know, because you're right. We can't, if someone breaks the law, no matter who they are, rich, poor, young, old, popular, unpopular, they should be held to account in the same manner that anyone else is. Context absolutely matters, but justice is justice.
I will say, though, there are people who would turn around and say, this is exactly why prosecutors have discretion. Prosecutors are not legally obligated to prosecute every single last crime that they are exposed to, right?
Which is why... Which is why I'm not sure, like, again, both arguments are compelling to me. It's a problem, right? Because this would be a very great example that justice is something we uphold in this country across the board. That's a great argument. I believe in that argument. That's an argument I like. But there is another compelling argument that, again, I can't decide which is more compelling at the top of my head. The other compelling element to this is only going to feed in to dangerous narratives that are already making the round. It's going to put fuel on the fire. It's in Colorado is probably going to go blue anyway. I don't think it will affect the outcome of the national election in any real sense, unless other states start pulling this card too. But I can't imagine a non-blue state doing this. Does that make sense? I can't imagine this happening in Florida or Tennessee. So I don't know if it will actually, at the end of the day, matter to the electoral vote count. And so there's a bunch of negatives.
It would take
here?
like a
Yeah.
swing state governor who is not up for re-election and not worried about the blowback. It would take something like that, which, I mean, it seems like it wouldn't even necessarily be a governor, right? It would be a state Supreme Court. Like, if a state Supreme Court declares him legally ineligible, that could be a way that, like, an executive wouldn't be politically accountable for it. So, never mind. Redact what I just said.
So Portland is burning, saying, wait, pretty sure if the U.S. Supreme Court upholds its Colorado ruling, it will result in Trump being ineligible to run. It will disqualify him.
That's the thing.
I don't know if that's true.
I guess I don't know if it's true either, because it could be true that states have,
like you said,
the
states are
authority
entitled to run their elections how they want.
But that means, like, administratively run the election. Yes. Like, who is and isn't eligible to become president is like a constitutional question, like a federal constitutional question.
And yet, Cenk is on the ballot in Texas, and he's not constitutionally allowed to run, right? He was born in Turkey.
Okay, well, that's funny.
So
I don't know how that works.
Precedent for states just being able to do whatever the fuck they want.
But I wonder if that was legal, like, because the only way that would actually matter if somebody legally challenged it and a federal district court said, fuck the Turkish nationality, fuck it, he's fine. And then if, like, an appeals court said, yes, affirmed, and then if the U.S. Supreme Court said, yes, affirmed, that's like when Cenk being on the ballot would be relevant, because otherwise it seems like he probably just slipped through the cracks.
Gang.
In my opinion.
Gang, you guys should call in about this. If you're watching this and you got opinions, this is a call-in show. It doesn't have to be about this, but this is now on my mind. So, I mean, I'm going to talk about it, right? So I guess...
Like when I said, just to clarify, when I said states can run their elections, yeah. I mean, like, purely, like, administrative matters. Like, how long is early voting open? Can you mail in ballots? If so, by when? Like, what's the deadline? Like, signature requirements. Like, do you need an ID? Like, these, like, little administrative questions. But the fundamental, who can be on the ballot, I do think that is a, like, federal question that states ultimately can't, like, override. Because it seems like an Article 2, whichever article is about the presidency. I think it's Article 2. I think Article 1's Congress and Article 3 is the courts. But it seems like an Article 2, assuming that's the executive branch section, it seems like it's that question. And it seems like a state Supreme Court wouldn't be able to, like, make its own mind up about that. So it does seem like if the U.S. Supreme Court says, yeah, Colorado's onto something, Trump actually can't be on the ballot, it does seem like that applies nationally, in my opinion. As a nobody.
I would be... again, I'm not a legal scholar. My answer has to be I don't know. I have suspicions, but I don't know. And that's at the end of the day. I think this, for me, it's a political question as well as a legal one. Because as you said, prosecutors have discretion. And I think that this being a political question makes me err on the side of letting him run.
Well, so are you referencing political question doctrine when you say that, or are you just common parlance saying it's a political question?
Almost always. This is just a spoiler alert for you, gang. Whenever I use a word, it's almost never the academic definition. It's almost always the common parlance definition, because that's how people talk. And I'm not talking to scholars, I'm talking to you. So one of the things that bothers me about this space is we insist on academic definitions for everything.
Can I explain real quick?
Please go ahead.
Because I feel pretentious now. I didn't mean that. So we're talking about what happens if the U.S. Supreme Court addresses this question. What happens? And the Supreme Court, in order to hear any case, they have to determine that it's justiciable. And there's, like, a lot of requirements, but one of the requirements is that it not be a political question. And that is very narrowly construed. Like, obviously, the court has addressed plenty, like, the court literally determined the outcome of the 2000 election, bro. So, like, clearly, but the Supreme Court won't hear political gerrymandering cases for this reason.
Yeah.
Like, issues of political gerrymandering are basically not up for review by the Supreme Court because they've determined it to be a quote-unquote political question that is best left up to the politically accountable branches of government, like Congress,
Yeah.
you know,
And
governors
this might be
that
that,
be voted
right?
out.
This
Yeah.
might be that. Again, I'm not a political scholar. I can only speculate, and it will be basically very surface level speculation. And so I'm hesitant to make any really big claims, to make any really big calls, or to kind of die on any hills here. But what I can say to you is that I know a lot of people who this will simply mobilize and drive to the polls that otherwise would not go, because they would see it as bullying Trump. And I know that's it's wild to say, right? It's wild to say, especially in these spaces. But there's a large contingent of Americans who would absolutely see it as a targeted attack, and that would drive them to a polls in the way that it normally wouldn't. But that's only my instinct. Again, I just heard this news. This is just out. We don't have all the details yet. I'm just giving you it as I get it. We have a caller. Let's bring in 𝕲𝖎. Hello, you're live.
Hey.
What's up? What do you got for
There
us
we
today?
So yeah, a little bit of topic shift for me, of course. I am
Please.
a big climate advocate, and I want to talk about COP28. That's the Conference of the Parties to the Paris Accord, climate, reform and all that stuff. Just finished up in the United Arab Emirates, and a lot of traditional environmentalists are shitting all over it, like they usually do. They say that, well, all of these great international meetings don't do anything, they don't accomplish anything, and we should just give up and like kill off half the population. I don't know what their solution is, but it's certainly not a solution that's working. So I think that some terrific things happened at COP28.
Mm-hmm.
We had a
what's the best thing? What's your favorite COP28 thing?
Well, 22 countries pledged to triple nuclear energy by 2050. So
Allison, are
that's
you a
my
nuclear
favorite
energy fan?
I don't know enough. I feel bad, but
well, my position is that we need all tools possible to solve climate change, because we need to reduce emissions globally by 9% per year to stay under the 500 gigatons carbon budget, to stay under 1.5 degrees. That's really going to be difficult. Even with nuclear, we're going to probably have to have a lot of solar and wind in the first 5 years, even if we build as fast as possible right now. So I'm fine with solar and wind, because those first 5 years, those really matter.
I'm a fan of nuclear energy in general. I think that it is something that we should have more of. However, I don't know if it's the only solution, right, to this problem.
Right.
Climate change, it's tough, because we can only it's a coalition of the willing, basically. A lot of countries, we simply have no control, or no way to kind of change their behaviors. And a lot of industrializing countries that are still industrializing, right? It almost feels like we're pulling the ladder up behind us, saying, well, this is how we got our industrial base. But if you try to do it that way, no, that's climate change is a problem, right? So there is that concern, right?
When you say behavior, are you talking about like the number of children they're having? Because this is like a familiar argument to me that.
No, not number of children. I'm talking about carbon emissions, etc.
Okay, well, yeah, and there is a solution to that, is that we provide technology. And of course, China and Russia are doing really wonderful things when it comes to going into Africa and all these other developing nations and promoting nuclear and renewables. But we think it's a big conspiracy to sort of gobble up these consumer markets. Hey, maybe it is, but at least they're doing something about climate change while they are providing this infrastructure. So
I definitely I don't know anything about it, but I do have this like impulsive like rejection of people who do just impulsively reject it. Because there is like a lot of that, like, oh, nuclear, scary, bad. No nuclear, minimal nuclear, please. Like, and I don't think that's useful.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of different arguments for and against. I think the fours win, but the number one as an advocate is you meet people where they are. So when you think about the urgency of climate change, there's a lot that we can do, and there's a lot that we must do. And with 500 gigatons of CO2 remaining as of 2020, that means it's like below 384 now. I just did the numbers on this, and so yeah, that's 9% per year for us to get rid of, to stay above that budget remaining before 2050. So it's really difficult. Looks like we're probably going to be looking at, the consequences of 2 degrees Celsius warming. That's 18 degrees average globally Celsius. And that means like no more coral reefs, 99.99% gone. That kind of consequences, like massive shift in weather patterns. Like the Pacific Northwest is going to get drier. Other places are going to get wetter. It's looking really grim. So yeah, I want to advocate for all possible solutions. That's where I'm at.
It's like a good plan. No, I think climate change, it's hard to have a conversation because, like, I don't think we have a disagreement here. I agree. Climate change, bad. We should fix it if we can.
Yeah.
I'm not educated like you on this, right? I don't know exactly the ins and outs of what things like the COP28 is doing. I don't know or follow what other kind of pressures that we're putting on places like China, India, etc. So it's really hard for me to kind of really bite into it. But I agree. If we can't stop it, I'd like us to stop it. And if we can't, if it's inevitable, then we're going to have to make some serious changes to how we live. And
I have one question.
Go ahead.
What do you think when you hear, when you think all these big environmental groups say we have to go 100% renewables and phase out fossil fuels right away? Is this?
It's never going to happen.
Seems okay.
Yeah, that's what I think.
So
I'm like, no one's going to do that because our standard of living is tied to these things in a way that it's inseparable. Phasing out, yes, I think we should wean ourselves off of it. But going cold turkey, it's not a viable. It's one of those utopian solutions that it just doesn't work. What are your thoughts? Oh, Allison muted herself and she's about to play with her dog. I think she's bored of us now. But that's okay.
The doggy. Okay. Well, in that case, void me, daddy. Ooh.
𝖲𝖏𝖏, bye. Bye-bye, 𝖲𝖏𝖏. But yeah, it would, yeah, let's not kill a lot of people. Toby1 Kenobi says it would be nice to do that, phase out, but it would kill tons of people. Let's not do that. Well, that's why we wean ourselves off slowly, so we don't have that kind of backlash or back effect, right? That we can transition to more environmentally friendly power sources and energy sources. That is something we have to do eventually. It's something we need to work on, absolutely. But it's one of those things where, like, what's that group? Do you know the name? Extinction Rebellion or something? Are you familiar with them?
Are they like Just Stop Oil Energy?
Yeah, those kind of deal. Those kind
Okay.
of deal where they go and they basically block traffic, or they'll glue themselves to a painting, or they'll put paint over the Mona Lisa. You know, that kind of things, right? Do you think they're effective in their advocacy?
No. I mean, like, people who are anti climate change policies, they tend to see people who are worried about climate change as like hysterical types, like people who fear the world ending, people who are afraid of the sun god coming down and burning us all. And so it's like, if you act like an actual, like, unhinged, like, loon, I don't think that's great for you. You know what I mean?
At the same time, right? Like, at the same time,
because I don't think it draws people's attention. Like, oh, we gotta wake up. I think people look and they're like, oh, look at the, like, mentally ills running wild. They found their political cause to be obsessed about instead of fixing their own life. Like, I think that's what people see when they see, like, people throwing tomato soup on, like, classical works of art and acting like they're saving the world for it.
No, I agree with you that that's how they see it. But I do wonder, the reasonable reaction, if you do think, if you believe that we are going to, like, literally hundreds of thousands of people are going to die if we don't stop this climate change, millions, in fact, right? And it's going to substantively change everything about the world, right? Species are going to extinct. I think a little bit of running around like a loon is a reasonable, panicking is reasonable in that situation. But you're correct in that I don't know if yeah, it's not moving anything forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, it kind of, if you think the rapture is about to happen and that everybody's about to go to hell, it like makes sense to stand on the side of the road and scream about how like everybody's about to go to hell. You know what I mean? Like if you have like really profound beliefs about how the world's about to end, then like, yeah, it makes sense to like run around with a chicken like its head cut off or whatever. I messed up the phrase, but like to other people, you look unhinged. You look crazy.
To bring it back to the Trump thing, I wonder if that's how people see those of us who have been really kind of riding hard on Trump is a real threat to democracy and things. I do wonder and worry that that is kind of what others, especially those who are more right-leaning, see that kind of rhetoric as, is that's just crazy talk.
I mean,
Yeah.
this is not that angle, but if you believe that the election was stolen, if you believe like that Trump won the election and that these like fucking courts and Democrats have conspired and they're getting away with it and Biden's about to be put in despite the fact that he's an illegitimate executive, like if you actually believe that, then like fuck, protesting at the White House makes sense, or the Capitol, wherever they were, it makes sense, right? Like but again, it's just like how realistic like are the dire circumstances that you think are apparent, like and I mean, like I would say that there is a lot, but okay, the people who are thinking that Trump's like a threat to American democracy, what are they doing? They're writing op-eds. They're not running around in the streets like breaking things. You know what I mean?
Like ballot in Colorado too, apparently, right?
They're going through formal legal processes. They're making arguments in court. They're like doing it the legitimate way. Yeah, they're doing it the institutional way. They're not causing chaos, right? They're not doing it in these like chaotic, like we're just gonna civil disobedient, fuck the law ways, you know?
No, I
not
agree.
even civil disobedient, like criminal disobedient, like criminal action, right?
Yeah,
like
I understand. We're not blocking traffic, for example. Yeah, I don't know what.
And there are absolutely like I live in the South, and people do meme on the. This is the election of our lifetime. The life of this country hangs in the balance. Like they do see it as a hysterical, like, oh God, they're worried about the end of the world again.
Here we
like
go again, right? Like, yeah, I get you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. I don't know. We are in a place in America where we are becoming, and I know it's cliche to say, but we're becoming two different peoples almost. We have competing cultures. We have rural culture, and then we have city culture, urban culture more specifically. And these have kind of become at odds. Each blames the other for the problems that they are facing or they believe that they are facing. And it's a really tough kind of adversarial relationship. I know that a lot of people think that misinformation is to blame for this, that we keep seeing all this disinfo come out and then people are going crazy because they see all this disinfo. I push back against that. I think it's a symptom. It's not the problem. It's a symptom of the problem that we have. Misinformation works because we want it to work. And what I mean by that is we have these preconceived notions and we have created a market for information that feeds into our biases. And so we will eat up anything that shows whatever your biases is, America bad, or Trump, Orange Man bad, or the Democrats are trans in your children, right? Like we eat this type of thing up because we want to. We want to believe that our beliefs are correct and reality will reflect our beliefs, and so we eat it up. And this is a problem. And misinformation, banning misinformation or curtailing misinformation won't stop that problem. It's just not going to really help. I think the Israel-Palestine situation is a great example of this, of people willing to just eat up any even the most blatant lies about the other side, right? Like that the Palestinians are all faking their deaths, right? There's that narrative going around Hollywood, right? And people eat that shit up. Or that Israel is going around killing children on purpose because they love to drink the blood of Palestinian children, right? That narrative is going around. That narrative's been, a lot of people really believe that, right? And they'll eat up any information that kind of confirms their biases in this. So I don't know. I don't know, how do we fix it? Allison, fix our problem here. How do we fix this?
I don't know. I think that this has been like decades in the making. Like back in the day, the news organizations were required to present both sides of an issue. And Rupert Murdoch lobbied and said, this hurts conservatives. And he won. And then we got the 24-hour news cycle where every news station has its like angle that it's going at, right? And I don't know, that's kind of a simplistic narrative. Social media obviously like accelerated that, right? But like even before we had these like ultra niche like social media holes, right? We had like the people who listened to Rush Limbaugh were like arguably in a different universe, and the people who listened to like insert equivalent of his on the other side. You know what I mean? So it's not like new, but it's just the digital age, and like everybody's so online. Like everybody, regardless of their like old people are online, like spending all their fucking time on Facebook. Like everybody is plugged in. It's just like not good for us. I don't think we can go back. So
speaking of being plugged in, gang, we are having I know it doesn't look like it's a call-in show because no one's called in right now, but it is a call-in show, which means that you, dear viewer, if you have thoughts, if you have opinions, if you have things you want to talk about, can call in and talk to us about whatever it is you want to talk about. Think I'm wrong about the joke cat being weak? You can call in about that. Want to spout off on Trump being removed from the ballot in Colorado? Come on in and talk to me about it. Want to talk about misinformation? That's something you can do too. You want to just shoot the shit and chill for a little bit? We'll allow it. How do you call in? Very easy. !point Discord and chat. I'll provide the link in the other services. You click on that link, you accept the rules, and then you jump backstage. And once you're back there, I will pull you in and to the live stage, and we'll have a chat and I'll have a discussion. Let me give that link right now to YouTube. Hold on. And thank you, Toby, for putting the !point Discord in chat. Did you have other things you wanted to talk to me about? Because you mentioned the Fairy Queen and not aristocracy, the Fairy Queen and not so erudite argument. What other things have been on your mind lately, Allison? Yeah, great. Awesome.
I mean, okay, have you seen the stuff? I feel like there's some interesting, like, okay, I said earlier I have no desire to be a streamer, and I don't. But if I did ever stream, I wouldn't do Twitch Pulse stuff, okay? I would do, like, deep dives on cases. I would be, like, a law tuber, okay? This is what I would do. But I am so interested. I'm not going to do it. I have no interest. But okay, these Texas immigration cases, do you know what I'm referencing?
Vaguely.
So the one that's like really hot right now is that Texas has made it a state crime to cross the border illegally, which gives because their assertion is that the federal government is not enforcing immigration law under these Democrats. Okay, so they have given their state law enforcement officials the authority to basically arrest, because obviously if it's a state crime, cops in the state have jurisdiction to arrest people and deport them if they are not like legal residents of the country. And so the ACLU has said, we'll see you in court, Texas, because they say it's going to lead to racial profiling, like basically IDing people and being like, you look like a Hispanic, and then like stopping them and like asking for their papers. Like, this is what people are worried about. But yeah, so that's going to be a fight. Like, can Texas criminalize, like on a state level, illegal border crossings, or is that like strictly for the federal government to criminalize? Previously, Texas had erected a floating barrier in the Rio Grande, and Texas did this. Biden administration sued to get it taken down, saying that it was I think he used environmental law. I think he said it was an environmental hazard and he needed EPA permission to do that, and that the EPA didn't grant permission. And they won. So the floating barriers got taken down, and Texas is just trying its hardest to like do something, it seems. But I think it's an interesting thing going on.
No, that is a good question. Are states allowed to make laws about their borders, right? I don't know. I'm not sure. I from a legal standpoint, I can see, because it's all about precedent, right? If we allow them to do that, like what other things does that open the door to? And we have to be kind of concerned on that end. I think morally speaking, I think that this should be a federal thing. I think the federal government should be controlling the borders, and whether they're permissive or whether they're restrictive should be up to the nation in and of itself. Because again, we don't really have any checkpoints between states and things like that. And so the national border is really the only border that matters in a real sense. So yeah, I'm not sure. I'm basically killing time till calls. Give you 20 minutes, Artemis Fowl says. 20 minutes? We got a lot of time to kill. Like, 20 minutes is a long time in streamer land, right? Who voted on no border issue funding bill? Who voted no on the border issue funding bill? I'm not sure. That was a big thing recently on the federal level, on the border issues being tied to like Ukraine, Israel funding, etc. Are you familiar with that at all?
Very vaguely, yeah.
Very vaguely,
yeah.
That, me too.
Basically what you said, like aid to Israel and Ukraine was tied to increased border funding, right?
Yes. I'm of mixed minds on this. I think that a lot of times politicians will try to omnibus their way into things that are unpopular. Adding pork, I guess they used to call it, but that's not the proper term. But slipping in additions to a popular bill that, because the bill is popular, will kind of ride on its coattails. Riders, I think they're called. Yeah,
I'm gonna look it up because the name of, there is like a term for it, and it's bugging me.
There's also the opposite of that, is when you want to kill a bill, you insert a poison pill into it, which is basically an addendum or an addition that will make it so that no one can vote for the bill, right? That happens on occasion too. Yeah, we'll see. Henry Kissinger had a different strategy to deal with immigrants. You might say.
We got a caller.
Oh, we got Fairy Queen. Hey, Fairy Queen, welcome.
Hey, how are you guys?
Oh, so far so good. What you got for us today?
Oh,
Happy
well,
Whickmas.
actually, I just finished driving. I just got home. I'm with the fam right now. I heard you guys were kind of lonely, so I wanted to call in, wish you both Merry Christmas, see how you're doing, asking what you are doing for the holiday season, if you're planning on doing anything for the holiday season. What are your holiday traditions? What are they, Wick? What are they, Allison?
Allison, do you want to go first?
Sure. Well, I'm going home for Christmas. We actually do have a family Christmas tradition, okay? Ever since, like, we've gotten older. Oh, wait, I just messed up something on the display. Now I see myself larger. Okay, whatever. Oh, I wish I could fix this.
Listen, it's okay. Everybody sees themselves as larger after Christmas, okay? That's just the natural consequence of Christmas.
Okay, so, oh, God, now I'm doing all kinds of things. Oh, no. I'm sorry,
guys. What is happening on your end of things? I can see you fine here. It's not affecting me, so.
Okay, cool. Okay, ignore it. I'm ignoring it. I'm gonna ignore it. Basically, okay, so my mom, instead of us doing like traditional like Christmas gifts, okay, she does, her name is Shelly. She does Shelly's favorite things, which is like in the style of Oprah's favorite things, okay? And she picks out her favorite products throughout the year, okay, generally like makeup, skincare, like hair care products, or like random like clothing item, like just things that she likes, that she knows that we would like, and she presents them to us in the style of Oprah's favorite things. And this is our Christmas.
That's awesome. I love that. That's really cool. Wick. What are your
Oh,
Christmas traditions?
there isn't very many. One of it's not much of a tradition at all. But we open presents from the family on Christmas Eve, and then we open presents from Santa on Christmas Day. That's the
Oh,
tradition, right? So we get 2 days of
okay.
presents, basically. It's nice. I enjoy it because again, you get to unwrap presents twice a year, twice a day, twice on Christmas, if you will. But no, it's fun. It's fine. And mostly it was because I was impatient as a kid, right? I don't know if
Yeah.
I've told you this story, but I got in very big trouble when I was 10, 9, 11, something like that. Because I found out where my mom hid our Christmas gifts. And now this
Mhm.
was like in August. She gets them really early. She's plans for Christmas way ahead of time. So I remember looking and I found it, and I found she got me a video game. It was a Contra game for PlayStation, I think. And so I'm like, man, I don't want to wait. And I took it and I played with it. But then I forgot to put it back. So on Christmas Eve, my mom's frantically looking for the gift that she knows she got me. And
No.
then she finds it in my PlayStation, right? And yeah, it was a bad
Oh.
deal. What about you? What are your family traditions?
Our family traditions? Okay. Well, one thing that we do is we make this huge trifle, which is absolutely delicious. You gain like 1,000 pounds after eating it. It has the base of a trifle, for those of you who don't know, it is a dessert comprised of many desserts in essentially a giant glass bowl. So think about, like an overnight salad, if you will, but like an overnight dessert salad, if that makes sense. So the bottom layer is a huge piece of brownie. The next layer is a huge piece of Cool Whip. The next layer is another piece of brownie. Then you have another, I think, a layer of vanilla ice cream. And then you have the next layer, which is a layer of chocolate pudding. Like, it's just so much like sweets. Like, you have like an eighth of this thing and you're like done, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's the thing that I love, but have always like sort of hated also about Christmas is just the excess of it. We get more chocolate, more cookies, more God knows how much stuff every year. And I know why we do it. We do it because like our family, everybody's an adult right now, right? Well, except for my youngest sister, she's still in high school, but everyone at this point is mostly grown up. So nobody really wants the chocolate anymore, but we still have so much chocolate stuffed into our stockings. And I guess that's kind of a question I had for you guys. So I think, how do you move like your childhood Christmas into an adult Christmas experience? Because I'm finding that transition to
Do
be
we
difficult
want
with my.
to? Right? I think one of the, for me at least, one of the benefits to Christmas is to be childlike in nature, right? I think it's good to kind of have some childlike activities or traditions or whatever you want to call them. I think that we I don't want to say adultify because that's a silly word, but we put so much onus on being a grown up. And I think it's okay on Christmas to be able to be a bit of a kid. I don't know.
Except then, okay, sort of yes and no, right? Like, so yes, it is a time to be with family. It's a time to let loose. You're there. It's a time to be relaxed and such, right? But there are only so many times. I don't ever want to see another rerun of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. I gotta be honest with you. I don't want to see
I
Charlie the
never
Chocolate.
liked that. Like I'm gonna be like the media surrounding Christmas movies and things like that. I know a lot of people love them. I don't remember
So
anything.
many of those movies are just awful. There are a handful of Christmas movies that I love. The Home Alone movies, those are awesome. Okay, the other one, what was what is it? The Great Lampoon, right? The one like where
Wait,
he
is Home Alone
explodes.
a Christmas movie?
I think it is. Well, it's a Christmas movie. It's set at
Is
Christmas.
Die Hard a
Christmas
Christmas movie?
iconography is featured at all. I think we can call it a Christmas
So
movie.
Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
hmm
Okay.
Wait. What makes a Christmas movie to you, Wick? What defines a Christmas movie?
It's gotta
Is
be
it
about
that
Christmas. It can't be just it can't just take place during Christmas. It has to be about Christmas. So like a Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer movie or something like that, or Frosty the Snowman, or A Nightmare Before Christmas, or uh, Elf. All these things are Christmas movies because they are about Christmas. Uh,
Mhm.
Die Hard and Home Alone take place during Christmas. It's a very big difference.
You know what? Fight you on this, because in my opinion, Home Alone is a Christmas movie because it's
You're
about the
entitled to be
importance of
wrong. That's
family.
fine.
It's about the importance of family and being home with your family, and all that you lose when you decide not to prioritize family, I would argue, is a pretty big Christmas value. But that's just me, Wick. You know, personal values and such.
Personal values. See, these are not tied to Christmas, however. There are plenty of movies that have personal values in them that I wouldn't, and you wouldn't, consider Christmas movies. Most kids' movies are like this, right? Regardless of the season. Most kids' shows are like this. They really value and put forward a strong moral kind of tradition, if you will. And I think that, again, it's separate from Christmas itself. Violent Night is a Christmas movie because it's, again, about Christmas. Yeah, I just reject the whole Christmas is around it, so it's a Christmas movie. That's silly.
Interesting.
Very
Here's
clean.
another.
Oh, go
Here's
ahead.
here. Oh, I just wanted to put forth one more thing, and
Please,
then you
one
can
more.
hurl me into the black void that is the outer
Why does it
space
gotta be
of this
black?
universe. Oh, it doesn't have to be, but I don't know. Just when I think of like outer space, I think of a dark, starless night, which is, I'm assuming, where I'm headed. But
Very
anyway,
clean. I think you need to sit with that and like really examine it.
I need to sit and examine it. But why is that, Allison?
I'm
Why
just
do you
being a bitch. I'm just kidding.
No, I guess. Okay, so this is a sad thing. This is a sad moment about Christmas. So I mentioned like transitioning, our childhood Christmas to our adult Christmas, right? Everyone is almost grown up. Like all of the people in my kids in my family, except for, again, my youngest sister, have all moved on, are all in college, are becoming adults, are getting their jobs. Nobody is married. Nobody has kids, which means that the Christmas that I have enjoyed every single year for almost 27 years, it's about to change. It's about to end pretty radically. Like it's going to be a lot harder to come together for Christmas, to see each other. My parents are thinking about selling the house, right? And I don't know, I feel kind of sad about that. And I wondered if you guys experienced, I don't know, similar. This isn't a bad thing, it's good to grow up and such, right? But I wondered if you guys experienced a similar shift in the holidays, like as you got older, like they
Absolutely.
changed drastically for you.
Absolutely. Look, Christmas was always a big deal in my family when I was growing up because we would move all over. We were a military family, right? So Christmas was the time we could spend together. We would, if we could, if my dad's job allowed him, right? If he could get leave, we would go and spend time with my family in Florida. And so it was always a big deal. It was important to my mother, especially. It still is. But because we're all scattered to the winds now, none of us live in the same state, right? It sometimes we get together, sometimes we don't. Last Christmas, we all got kicked out because my sister, whose home we were staying at, got mad at us and kicked my mom out. And then I left in solidarity too. So it's always a thing. But change is a constant. Yeah, just prepare yourself for it because as your family members move their separate ways and go their separate ways, it's bound to happen. Allison, what are your experiences?
Okay, well, this is about to be a downer, okay, so I'm sorry. But this is probably going to be my grandpa's last Christmas not in hospice. He is at, I guess, stage 6 dementia. From what I understand, there are 7 stages. So stage 6 is not good. And my poor grandmother, they've been begging her to put him in hospice for like a minute because it's like a lot. But she's held out. She's like, he gets one more Christmas at least. Yeah. So yeah, it's sad, but it happens. They only get to be seeing the worst parts of aging because they've lived a long life. So that's like the silver lining.
Yeah. I know our neighbor, just a few years ago, he went to Thanksgiving, he ate a full Thanksgiving meal, and then he sat down in his chair and he died in his sleep peacefully directly afterwards. That was probably one of the best deaths I've ever heard of, but it was still a huge shock, though, to our neighbor and to us, when we heard that it happened. It's a hard thing that happens, Anyway, I don't want to end on a downer. I just wanted to, I suppose I am.
Sex addiction point. I brought that up and I was rooting for you a little bit. I was like, it is contested. It is questionable.
Yeah, no, that is a whole other thing, honestly. And I went to the most extreme example when I was on the panel, like with the Ted Bundy and
Did you like that panel, by the way? Did you have fun?
I felt honest. So yes and no.
Okay,
So
not a yes.
So it was a really good opportunity. I liked coming on, right? I thought that I really enjoyed like having the chance to do it, but I felt a lot of pressure before coming on because I knew that there were going to be some big names. I knew Erudite was there. I knew Simon was there. I knew that Lab was going to be there. So I did a lot of prep work beforehand, and I felt, a lot of pressure to perform really well. And honestly, I felt a little bit angry about like the way this topic had been discussed before on previous panels and on and not necessarily just this one, but like also like on other like debates that I've seen before. And so I really felt that I needed to step up and to say something. And I worry that it didn't have the impact that I didn't have the impact that I wanted to. I'm trying to just kind of learn from my performance to see how I can improve. And I'm hopeful that I'll be able to have the chance to talk about it again. But yeah, Allison, the sex addiction point is a whole thing by itself. And more people need to like question that, because it's not just, it's not the most extreme examples that I brought up, like Ted Bundy, Harvey Weinstein, et cetera. Those things are true, but it's also true in a lower level that people use sex addiction as a reason for cheating.
Ted Bundy, like, I was talking about 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙 earlier, and he firmly believes that like the cases that look like real sex addiction can generally be explained by other mental illnesses. Like, we know Ted Bundy was like manic depressive out of his ass. Okay, it is insane that man was. Fuck Ted Bundy, right? Who cares? But like, it's insane that he was allowed to represent himself at his own trial because he was like so clearly just like steeping with mental illness. Okay, doesn't excuse anything he did. I'm glad he went to prison rather than a psych ward. But like, probably his it was probably like manic depression with a comorbid personality disorder and just like low impulse control / a lack of regard for other people rather than like a sex addiction.
Yeah. And the other thing too, one of the things that they said on the panel, which is true, is just because you struggle with addiction does not mean that you don't have personal responsibility, which is true, right? It is true that if you have an addiction, you're still responsible for it. But it's also true that people often talk about addiction like in the same breath as trying to excuse somebody for a type of behavior. So one thing, and like it isn't just limited to sex addiction, although obviously that was the topic of the night. Like I know, like, so one of my ex-partners, he was an alcoholic. And I remember very distinctly, like talking to other people who worked with alcoholics, talking to like my therapist, talking to a lot of people, right? And I heard so many stories of just people saying that it was the alcohol that would make them do bad things, right? That it was the drinking that would make the person like be bad and like do irresponsible things. I don't want to get too much into it, but I have heard like people discussing addiction like with other things too, as a way to excuse the person from being abusive or just being selfish or taking advantage of the other person. And that's in particular one of the reasons I think why it's important to insist on the fact that sex addiction is not recognized as a disorder in the DSM. It's not even recognized as an addiction like within the ICD-10, which is I think it's the book that's produced by the World Health Organization. It's described as
the WHO version of the DSM, basically. And like all the DSM codes have a not all the DSM codes have a corresponding ICD International Classification of Disease code, but most do. There are some disorders that are recognized by the ICD that aren't by the DSM. But you're right, sex addiction or its equivalent seems to not be recognized by either.
Okay. It's true. And one more thing too, I'm so sorry, I'm eating up all your time. But one more thing about the compulsion thing, because that was something that Erudite brought up. This is something I should have brought up. If you speak to people who have obsessive compulsive disorder and who have also struggled with addiction, they will tell you that these two things do not feel internally the same. They are not the same thing at all. And that's not just because of the physical withdrawal. It's also because of the lengths that people will go to in order to fulfill the addiction as opposed to a compulsion. They're not treated socially in the same way. And so I really wish that, that somebody who struggled with a compulsive disorder had said something or will say something to that, because I think that's an important thing to bring up. I know people who have obsessive compulsive disorder.
I'll have to tap into my team of mental illness and bring on the ones I need at the time.
Wick, you're only a Twitch streamer. Where you're gonna have such a hard time finding mentally ill people. How are you gonna do it?
It's funny because I can throw a rock and hit 10.
Yep.
Yeah, but no, I think that's a good point. Don't worry. I am absolutely certain that there will be more topics around that subject that will come up that you'd be more than welcome on. Fairy Queen,
Thank you.
can I just say, have a very merry Whickmas. Goodbye.
You too.
To the void. To the void. Max is green. You can't run. No one can run. Let's bring on the next contestant. Hello, you live.
Jenny was first.
Oh, Jenny
it's fine,
was
but
first?
I will say Jenny was first.
Well, Josiah's here now.
Oh,
maybe not. Okay, I guess we get Jenny first. Hello.
Jenny, I was pulling for you.
You live.
Hi. I am. Are you sure you wanted me and not Josiah?
Either one. We're gonna get you both.
Okay, awesome. So, no Cam tonight because kids in the background.
That's fine.
I'm here to argue with you about whether or not what constitutes a Christmas movie.
So why am I wrong? I think, again, to restate it, a Christmas movie is anything that is about Christmas.
Correct. And you also stated that Christmas is celebrated personal for each person, and I'm going to get there. I'm not especially a huge fan of Die Hard movies. I think they suck, so I'm not going to use Die Hard. My favorite Christmas movie is Anna and the Apocalypse. It's kind of like a newer movie.
I've never seen it.
It's super good. It's a British kind of like a horror comedy.
Sorry.
And yes, it does take place at Christmas, but during the entire movie, it's celebrating the Christmas season. Like, you see it everywhere. The kids they have the Christmas concert in the movie. There's Christmas decorations. There's fighting that happens with candy canes, like large candy canes.
These are aesthetics, though, right? Like, I understand what you're saying, that this takes place during Christmas.
Right. So I'm giving that part to you. However, it's the storyline that counts, right?
Sure.
And what it means and how we're celebrating. Like, going into the movie, like, Anna, typical high school girl, doesn't know what she wants to do with her life. Doesn't know how to talk to her parents. She and her best friend, they're at different places in their friendship, but also she doesn't know if she wants to, like, let go of the friendship or keep it because she doesn't want to stay in her small town, right? And this all has to do with, like, everybody pushing, like, how she wants to celebrate Christmas, whether or not she wants to celebrate Christmas because her mom had recently died, right?
Sure.
And like, throughout the movie, there are little nods here and there to, like, past horror films similar to it, like Shaun of the Dead, which it's very close in comparison to. But also a lot of other films like Home Alone, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Santa Claus is Coming to Town, The Year Without a Santa Claus, things like that.
See, Home Alone doesn't fit there, and let me tell you why, right? This is how you know Home Alone doesn't fit. Because Home Alone can take place at any other period of time in the year. Summer vacation, spring break vacation, anything, and nothing fundamentally would change about the plot of the movie. The aesthetics might be different, but the plot of the movie would still be, it would still hit the same themes, it would still go the same way. There would be no fundamental difference in how these things. This isn't true for things like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, or Christmas in July, right? Or elf
let
in
me
these
finish. Wait, let me finish explaining, because like part of the story that intertwines as you go through, she sees that like it's not that everybody's trying to force Christmas on her. They're trying to yes, elves are real. They're trying to, they're trying to get her in the spirit of Christmas, which is the spirit of family and togetherness and
It might be true. I don't know this movie, right? So you might be exactly right. It might be a Christmas movie. I don't know.
But here's the thing. The theme of Christmas movies doesn't always have to be like how you in particular would celebrate Christmas. Now, like I particularly would try at least not to celebrate Christmas by leaving my kid at home in New York while I take the rest of the family to France. But that doesn't mean that like they didn't that his parents didn't bust their ass to get back home to the family so they could celebrate Christmas as a family. The action and others, I say, are incidental to the theme of the movie, which is family and togetherness.
I disagree, but that's okay, Jenny. Jenny, you can be wrong. It's fine. As No Cow Mike says, you got working audio, and you used to say that Die Hard sucks. Really? Die Hard isn't a Christmas movie.
Listen,
But yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker! It's a great movie. Okay.
Die Hard sucks.
Okay.
Movie does look cute. That little movie that she's talking about, it looks cute.
I've never heard of it. It very well could be a Christmas movie.
It looks very niche. It literally is described as like a British zombie horror musical. I was like, well, that is specific.
Speaking of British zombie horror musicals, Josiah, hello.
Hello. Wait a minute. Hang on 1 second. I gotta turn the camera on. So you can see the joy on my face.
The joy on your face. I wonder what he's calling in about. I
have no idea. What would he be possibly interested in? Why is this?
What news event has occurred recently that would?
It's like it wants to deny me. It wants to deny me. Hang on.
Is it keeping you off the video ballot?
It's Trump's final revenge.
There we are.
Oh my God! Hey.
Hello.
How is everybody?
I am shocked. I'm going to be real with you. I didn't think they'd take him off the ballot. I didn't think it was going to happen.
Neither did I.
What happened? Not necessarily in Colorado, but again, I've heard even very conservative Asa Hutchinson types say he's constitutionally ineligible. There's a clear legal argument. So I saw some state trying it.
Several states have tried it, and so basically it's the opinion of a number of conservative legal scholars as well. It's not just progressives or hippie liberals trying to kick him off, like people who are affiliated with the Heritage Foundation and others. Like, no, it's pretty clear he engaged in insurrection up to and on January 6th. He gave aid and comfort to enemies of the United States. And there have been many challenges. None of them made it that far except one in Colorado. And a district court held that that January 6th was an insurrection, that Donald Trump is an insurrectionist because he engaged in it. But she kind of punted at the very end. She's like, listen, I don't know if Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which disqualifies people who took an oath to support the Constitution from ever again holding public office, if they break that oath by engaging in insurrection. Sure, that applies to senators and governors and people like that, but would it really apply to the president? And of course, everyone's like, fucking duh. Like, why would we want to protect the United States from insurrectionists by going about it so that they can't run for any office except the most powerful office? It's like saying, I can't trust you with this butter knife because you're too dangerous, so I'm going to give you a bazooka, right? Makes absolutely no fucking sense. Any conservative who argues it is just an absolute dipshit. Lactoid, if you're reading this or for listening to this right now, I just want you to know there is no good faith argument to be had. The intellectual heavyweights are squarely on the side of Trump is an insurrectionist. He is disqualified. You can tie yourself in knots about it. But yeah, I'm happy.
Chance, would you have the case citation to where I could look up this district court opinion? Possibly.
I'll send you the link right now. Hang on 1 second.
And while you're doing that,
yeah,
I don't know the details quite yet. This is just something that broke an hour ago, basically, is when I heard of it. But I worry, and you know me, I'm a worrier. My concern is this, that one, it won't be upheld by the Supreme Court, and that will be
Well, there is a chance also, I didn't even think, there's a chance that the appeals court turns it down and then the Supreme Court just doesn't take up cert. So it is possible that the Supreme Court actually never hears it and it dies. That's possible.
Well, my understanding is, and unless I'm wrong here, and so I'm not a lawyer, but I believe when you're appealing a state Supreme Court decision, I don't know if, I think the only one above it is the United States Supreme Court. I don't know if like an appellate federal court goes above it. But Trump has appealed directly to.
It's such a unique issue. It wouldn't surprise me if SCOTUS has like original jurisdiction and they can just skip the relevant appellate circuit, because it's like literally, can the incumbent run for president again? Like, that's so major. It seems like the Supreme Court would be able to address it.
There would be a compelling interest in them hearing the case, absolutely. Whether they will or not, I'm not sure. So that is a concern I have, that they will hear it and then they will overturn it, and that sets precedent, and that's going to be a problem, right? So that's an issue that I might have. That is a concern that I have. That because of the makeup of the Supreme Court currently, it will set precedent that will be a problem going forward. My second concern is that it will simply only be upheld in blue states, which Trump's going to lose anyway in, and have no significant effect on the election, but it will have a significant effect on the narrative, and it will feed into the oppressor narrative that people are like, look at the deep state trying to keep us from voting from Trump once again, right? And that's just going to be like gas on the fire. And those are my concerns. But I do see a compelling argument, and I think this is where I'm leaning currently, that the law is the law. And whether you are old, you are rich, you are poor, you are young, politician, layman, doesn't matter. The law should apply to you. And so that is where I'm kind of leaning currently. But I might change my mind. Anyway, what are your thoughts on that?
Listen, I'm as a matter like of utilitarian consideration, which I think it's a perfectly rational moral framework. Like if you want to make the case, if people want to make the case that listen, we shouldn't enforce Section 3 of the 14th Amendment in this situation because there's a risk of civil war, there's a risk of, republic breaking backlash. I'm sympathetic to that. I'm sympathetic if you want to make the argument that we shouldn't apply the law here, because at the end of the day, even the law itself isn't the end. It's supposed to serve a means to an end. The law, as we understand it, is supposed to serve what is right, what is just. I'm sympathetic to that. But what I'm not sympathetic to is the idea that it doesn't apply. So if a conservative says, okay, yeah, you got him dead to rights, he's fucked. If we apply the letter of the law, he is squarely fucked. He should be squarely fucked.
Even in the law, we have and Allison reminded me of this, so credit to her. Prosecutors have
prosecutorial discretion.
Yeah, discretion on what they charge and what they do. So you can absolutely break the law, but a prosecutor can decide just not to charge you because of, as you said, there's compelling public interest that it might be a problem, right?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. That's the only argument to save Trump's ass that I am sympathetic to. Anyone, and I do mean this. I mean this call out. Anyone who says seriously the Section 3 doesn't apply to the president because it's not an office is just a fucking loser and should be made fun of.
And just to address Section 3, they're referring to Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which was passed like in the Reconstruction era. It's one of the Reconstruction Amendments, and it basically was put in place to prevent people who fought for the Confederacy from returning to the positions that they held before they seceded and renounced the government. Basically, this is what they're using.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I had to finish the SEO and publish that video I just did. That's why I'm so late, Wick. Anyway. So it was passed in 1868, and it was designed basically to keep people like Jefferson Davis out of running for office in the post-war Union. And if you look at, the people who brought the suit were actually, It's a nonprofit. It is a progressive nonprofit or associated with the left. It's called Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington. They are a nonprofit, allegedly nonpartisan. They do go after corruption when Democrats do it, like Bob Menendez. But unfortunately for Republicans, they tend to have the market cornered on corruption and electoral politics. So Cruz spends more of its time bitching at them. They filed the lawsuit on behalf of Republican voters in Colorado who basically were making the case, listen, only qualified candidates should be allowed to run for office. It will affect my vote and the votes of others if an unqualified, constitutionally unqualified or disqualified candidate is on the ballot. Donald Trump violated Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. Therefore, he's disqualified. Therefore, we think you should keep him off the ballot. And to me, even the district court ruling, which this was an appeal of, was pretty remarkable because a sitting judge, a district court judge in Colorado, said the phrase, Donald Trump is an insurrectionist. Like, a lot of people have said that, and for a lot of people, it's a matter of political opinion. But here, that's now in a legal ruling somewhere in the United States. She just kind of punted at the end.
The argument that some conservatives in my chat are making right now is that he hasn't actually been found guilty of anything in a court, right? Like, he's not been found guilty yet. So until he is found guilty, this would not apply.
Okay, well, the conservatives in your chat, which I can't see, they're coping. They're welcome to join the conversation. Okay. There's nothing about Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which requires a conviction for insurrection. So you're reading into shit that's not in there. And I thought you conservatives were supposed to be constitutional textualists. It's just what it says there, and we can't read into it. It doesn't say anything about a conviction. Get fucked.
That is a precedent, though. If we don't need a court trace to, like, under what conditions then should we apply it, if not legal ones? So if you can simply convince enough people that they're an insurrectionist, then you could just take them off the ballot. Like, that doesn't seem to be a great precedent when you have people arguing that the Democrats are selling out the country to the Chinese or whatever, right?
Yeah. So listen.
Well, I mean, you've already seen, like, kind of, I think, pretty disingenuous, like, sit-ins for Palestine being like, this is technically an insurrection. Like, it's literally not. No one's saying it is, but, like, I've seen people kind of disingenuously suggest that, like, we're really stretching. We're doing a whole huge reach with this insurrection definition, which, again, I don't think is super reasonable, but I've heard it.
No, and to that point, listen, anything is subject to abuse. Like, I'm not saying that it's not worth considering, but the slippery slope thing, well, if we set a precedent, anything is possible. That's the case anywhere. You could make the argument that by having laws and judges at all, you're setting up a slippery slope. As a matter of fact, that's exactly what an anarcho-capitalist would say. Listen, if you give any state government any power whatsoever, they can abuse it. So that's why I'm kind of unpersuaded in the end to that argument, this idea that it's subject to abuse. Absolutely. And I have no doubt that if this ruling is upheld, or perhaps even if it's not, that you won't see Republicans trying to abuse the precedent moving forward. But if that's the metric, if it's like, listen, we can't create a precedent that Republicans can abuse, we might as well just close shop on the United States because these bad faith, dishonest, lying fucks will and can abuse anything. So,
fair enough. Fair enough. I'm curious to see how it will go going forward. My concern is a utilitarian concern, right? Legally, I just don't know. I don't know enough about the legal to make any decisions or make any prescriptions about that.
It kind of seems like it's going to come down to the more boring question of, like, can a state Supreme Court decide this versus the, like, interesting question of, is actually Donald Trump ineligible? I could be wrong, but it seemed like a lot of that, just a cursory glance of that opinion seemed to be mostly a justification of the state Supreme Court even making the, like, section or Amendment 14 Section 3 determination in the first place. So it could be a lot more boring than we anticipate, but hopefully not.
You know what? Many such cases. Josiah, is there any other final thoughts you have on the situation? It's a call-in show. We got a bit of a line, so I mean, if you want to stay, I guarantee at least one of those people has the opposite of opinion.
I want to see him fight with somebody.
Yeah, and I kind of want to see you fight. So I don't know.
I can hang out. I can hang out for a bit.
Okay, well, let's bring on one of the guests. I don't know if Gurpreet has this opinion, but I know that Artemis Fowl does. So let's bring on Artemis Fowl first. And yes, Testicle Johnson, for $2, repeal the 21st Amendment. Thank you for the $2. Okay, Artemis. What are your thoughts?
So why would you intentionally give somebody an inevitable win when you could otherwise leave them alone?
Can you elaborate?
So again, you're talking about taking a decision based entirely politically. By the way, it's a party wanting to claim that the president did insurrection. Whether he did or not is irrelevant because you haven't done a court case on it yet. And saying, okay, well, by our standard, not a legal one, he did insurrection. He's no longer eligible to be on the ballot in one state, a state that isn't really that important. But now you're going to take it to the Supreme Court. That is 6-3 in favor of Republican conservatives, and many would say are extreme conservatives who will likely throw out the law just to keep their party in power. So you just gave a win to Trump to push a narrative even further.
Okay, so he's pushing the narrative no matter what. Number two, you weren't paying attention because I said the people who actually brought the lawsuit weren't Democrats. Okay, so you're factually wrong about
you
that.
could claim that.
Well, no, I don't. What do you mean I can claim that? We know who filed the suits. You're saying he can claim that they were Democrats? Yes, Donald Trump can lie about anything. Conservatives tend to lie much more than progressives. It's a habit of theirs.
Who funds them?
Who funds who?
Who funds the group that pushed the lawsuit?
So again, if you were paying attention, I said the nonprofit Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington took up the lawsuit on behalf of Republican and independent voters in Colorado.
Yeah, on behalf of them, yeah. And who funds that group?
It's a nonprofit. I have no idea. Probably a bunch of people. It's because it's an anti-corruption watchdog, which also goes after Democrats. Again, less often because Republicans tend to be more corrupt than Democrats. It's probably, I would expect, more Democratic donors than Republican.
I'm going to contest that because I know for a fact that all politicians are corrupt. And
I understand. Yeah, I understand. I get it. It's a big enlightened centrist take. It's a big boy, baby's first politics take. Everybody sucks. There's no meaningful distinctions between two groups of people. Fuck off.
You do understand that just insulting people and then maligning them is not a good way to start a conversation. It just makes you look like a dick.
Listen, I like being a bit dick to centrist, 100%. If your political opinion is that both sides are equally bad and you can't draw meaningful distinctions, okay, then what I just said wasn't contradicted by what you just said. My position isn't that Democrats are perfect or Democrats can't be corrupt. Bob fucking Menendez is a Democratic senator right now who should be expelled from the Senate because he's been credibly accused of selling out his country to a foreign power. That's a Democrat.
I think he qualifies actually for being hung, which is interesting enough. He might be the first one.
I've never seen him with his pants off, so I have no idea.
I'm not an advocate for the death penalty, but
yeah,
I mean that's fair. But I mean, go ahead.
A little update. So I was like, the opinion is stayed until January 4th, pending appeal. What's that about?
Yeah.
Like, what's January 4th? Well, January 5th is the date that Colorado certifies its ballot. So basically, if no court comes in until January 4th, then he's not on it.
Yeah. The issue is SCOTUS is going to take up that thing, and it's going to make their decision irrelevant because they have to make the ballots, or there is no election. So they have to do it ahead of time. So the moment they take up that case, which will then drag out, it's inevitable. So here's my issue with this thing. You say that there is no court decision on whether or not he did insurrection federally, but we do have Jack Smith currently going to SCOTUS for this exact reason, to prove that he did do insurrection.
No, that's what. With all due respect, you don't know what you're talking about. So Jack Smith is going to the United States Supreme Court to answer the question of presidential immunity. Donald Trump, because he's a fascist loser, has taken the position that as a sitting president or as a former sitting president, that he is effectively above the law. Anything that he did while he was in office counts as an act of presidential authority. Therefore, he is immune from criminal prosecution. So Jack Smith is saying, listen, are you Supreme Court? Let's go ahead and just skip to the end and make a decision. Can former presidents be criminally prosecuted for anything they do while they're in office? That's the question.
So why are they trying to get that answer out of the way?
Because if the Supreme Court holds that Donald Trump is above the law, then he can't be criminally prosecuted for anything.
So let's go with the actual one that we're ignoring here. If Jack Smith wins on the immunity question, what does Jack Smith get to do?
Continue to prosecute Donald Trump.
On what?
On committing conspiracy to defraud the United States by trying to overturn the election.
Yeah, so basically what it
No,
is...
it's not basically an insurrection. That's why I'm saying you don't know what you're talking about. This is a completely separate legal matter. Donald Trump has not been charged with insurrection by Jack Smith.
So what happens if Jack Smith fails? Okay, no, let's just go with...
Again, these two things are dissimilar. So I'm gonna ask you to dial your centrism down just a little bit, okay, and just listen. So Donald Trump is not being prosecuted.
Just to clarify, Jack Smith is the special prosecutor for like the Mar-a-Lago. But I'm like curious, like special prosecutor for classified documents issue and January 6th issue.
Yeah, correct. Okay. He's not charging Donald Trump with sedition or seditious conspiracy or insurrection or anything like that.
Okay. So we have the January 6th thing. He is charging them with that, right? With January 6th related offenses.
Not as an insurrection, but as an attempt to unlawfully overturn the results of an election by engaging in conspiracy against a different situation.
So we have a set of actions that have taken place on January 6th, which somebody's getting prosecuted for. And then Colorado made its decision based on what?
So, if you read the district court ruling, she finds that you have two parties. You have the people trying to kick Trump off the ballot, and then you have Trump's attorneys making the case in court. One of the central questions is Donald Trump, one, was January 6th an insurrection? Two, was Donald Trump an insurrectionist? And then if A and B, then C, is he disqualified under the insurrection clause of the 14th Amendment? So they made their case in Colorado court. The judge held in the majority of her 100-page opinion that based on the facts presented by the two parties, she finds that A, January 6th was an insurrection, B, Donald Trump is an insurrectionist for having incited the insurrection, but C, she doesn't believe that Section 3 applies to presidents.
Let me ask this, if I may, because this is a question, right?
Sure.
And I'm genuinely curious. Would it be appropriate? You have a man on trial for murder. Again, there's a lot of evidence that he did it, but he hasn't been convicted yet. It's going through the court. He hasn't had his time in court. There is a separate incident, a trial, right, where a judge has to rule on whether or not this person is a murderer or not. Do we think it's appropriate for the judge to decide that when there's a court case pending? So no one is legally convicted of murder yet. The facts of the matter lean towards he probably is, right? But again, hasn't had his day in court. Is it appropriate for the judge that is in a related case, but not one, but where the ruling on that case hinges on whether or not this person is guilty of murder?
Like a defamation case.
Yeah, is it okay for that person, for that ruling to go through before the actual criminal case is ruled on? I don't know. That is an honest question.
I think that's an interesting question. I would defer to a lawyer there. I just don't. I kind of reject the premise because I don't think it applies here. I think your question would make sense if Donald Trump were being charged elsewhere with like seditious conspiracy or insurrection, which I don't even know. I think there's probably some sort of criminal statute somewhere known as insurrection. I know seditious conspiracy is one.
I don't know the legality.
Yeah, exactly. So. But that's not what's happening here. There is no pending court case about whether or not Donald Trump is an insurrectionist. So I don't think it's inappropriate here.
I think that if Jack Smith was to rule, if Jack Smith fails in his prosecution and a verdict returns that Trump did nothing on January 6th in his case, well, then the Colorado decision is irrelevant, and because it's been ruled that Trump did nothing wrong, which makes it issue because you've already ruled that he's an insurrectionist in Colorado with no evidence.
Hold on, just real quick. That's not how that works. Like, even if he's found not guilty, that doesn't mean he did nothing wrong. It means he's not guilty of
by our legal system, he's not guilty. So you can't punish
not guilty
somebody.
of that specific charge.
Yeah, again,
Yeah.
you're saying because if a court says Donald Trump is not guilty of A, he therefore can't be considered B, and it's just completely fallacious logic.
The bar in a criminal case is beyond a reasonable doubt, and you can argue that when people are up for very important positions, that the bar should be lowered, and maybe you could like establish some wrongdoing by like a preponderant standard or something just lower than the criminal standard. I heard people making an argument similar to this during the Kavanaugh hearing because people were saying, bro, he's getting accused of rape. He's never found that's a criminal charge. He's never been found criminally responsible for rape. Why are they bringing this up? And it's like, I mean, it seems like if you are up for such an important job, does the bar need to be so high as it is like when incarceration is on the line? I don't know if I'm explaining myself too well.
No, I get what you're saying.
It makes perfect sense, and this is something that people who have made the argument that Trump is disqualified. This is something that Judge Michael Loudig and Lawrence Tribe and others have made the case that it actually makes sense to have a lower standard because Donald Trump's liberty is not at stake here by holding that he's disqualified. You don't have a legal right to become president of the United States. It's a constitutional disqualification. That's all it is. So that's why the standard is typically lower. As a matter of fact, I am almost certain that the preponderance of evidence is the standard by which the district court held instead of beyond a reasonable doubt. But again, it just doesn't make any sense. If Jack Smith fails to successfully prosecute Trump for A, therefore he is not B, that doesn't make any sense. Insurrection
I think the issue comes down to the actions made on January 6th. If the actions made by Trump throughout January 6th are deemed to not rise to any type of guiltiness by the court, you can't turn around and say, well, he committed insurrection through legal means or honest means. I mean, you can't really make that argument.
So we're going. First of all, we're going in a circle. We're gonna let one more back and forth, and then we do have another guest. So
yeah. Also, Christmas movies. The definition is any movie that takes place during Christmas or has Christmas iconography.
No, I reject that definition.
Well, is Nightmare Before Christmas a Christmas movie?
Of course it is, because it's about Christmas. It's about Christmas. It's about Christmas itself. It's not
Christmas Carol
just during Christmas because it takes place during Halloween too, right? Like there are other seasons in which this movie takes place. It's a Christmas movie only because it has to do with Christmas.
Is a Christmas Carol a Christmas movie?
A Christmas Carol. It's been a while since I've seen
Ebenezer Scrooge.
Yeah, of course, because it has to do.
Could it take place any other time, and the same effect would happen?
It would not, though. It's a fundamentally different. It would be a fundamentally different story if it was a July Carol. I don't know. Anyway,
okay.
We just disagree. Fal, thank you for calling in.
I think they're just handing over a win to the Republican Party, thinking that this was ever going to work. It's just really
it may be.
It's not about politics. It's not about politics for them. They think they're pursuing constitutional law. Again, I agree with you. This may very well be. This may have tragic political consequences. This may trigger some sort of epic backlash, which pisses off every progressive and goes the wrong way. But that's a political question. That's a question of utilitarian ethics. If you think that they should just not pursue a legitimate constitutional question because there's a greater good involved, I'm sympathetic to that argument. What I'm not sympathetic to is that this has anything to do with Jack Smith's prosecution or anything like that, or that they need some sort of criminal conviction for insurrection. There's nothing in the amendment about it. So I think those are two separate things.
Well, I guess Supreme Court will.
We'll find out. We'll find out. Exciting times. Thank you for coming on, Fal, and have a Merry Christmas.
See you, buddy.
If you celebrate.
Yeah,
bye.
Thank you.
$2 from Testicle Johnson. Trump is fat. Thank you for the $2. One more, and then we'll let you go, Josiah, and I'll probably end it too. So, what you got for us, sir or ma'am? I'm not sure.
Hello.
Hi.
And let me just turn off the YouTube here. I have you on another
thing. You can mute the stream. That's fine.
I'm Indian, so I was going to ask you guys, how do you feel about arranged marriage?
Arranged marriage. I'm
a no on that. That's a no for me.
Probably not the best idea. I actually know somebody whose parents were arranged married, and they're a happy couple. So I understand that it doesn't go catastrophic every single time, right? But probably not preferable on average.
I think
It's
honestly, I'm going to steelman it a little bit. I think that there is something to be said about having an expectation and then fulfilling that expectation. I want my audience to ask themselves, how are you doing on your own there, making these decisions for yourself? Are you happy? Right? Wouldn't it be nice if there was someone to just kind of set you up, a matchmaker, if you will? Now, I'm not for forced arranged marriages. Like, there's a difference between an arranged marriage and a forced marriage, right? If someone is like a shotgun wedding, totally against that. But someone simply acting as a matchmaker, I don't see that as necessarily, again, context depending, as necessarily bad. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, the reason I'm so fascinated by one of my cousins, she got an arranged marriage and it came in and she started crying and her sister had to comfort her. I was like, it's tough.
Yeah, if it's forced, then I think it's a wrong thing.
But she is married to him now. She has 5 kids with him, so she somehow
5
accepted
kids,
it.
so I guess it's lasted a little bit.
Yeah,
Is she
yeah.
happy now?
I think if you have 5 kids, you should. That's how I would judge it.
The kids, I don't know if having 5 kids makes it happy.
Yeah.
Gurpreet, thank you for calling in. I really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me for the first time.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Was anyone else wanting to fight over the Trump thing
That's a good
before I head
question.
out?
Anyone? Because I know Nyrsox in chat. I know only Mr. Bill in chat was taking you to task. $5 more from Testicle Johnson to say Trump was set up by the Dems. This is and always has been a witch hunt. Why aren't we talking about Hunter Biden's cock? You know what? Questions that I don't know if we can answer. But yeah, if you want to fight with Josiah, he's here for another couple minutes. Feel free to exclamation point Discord. Click the link, accept the rules, jump backstage, and I'll pull you in. Nyrsock says no point in talking to people like Josiah. They don't care about due process. I mean, there is a point. It's good content for me. Okay.
No, listen. He or she would prefer the relative safety of the chat. I understand that. You are free to articulate your opinions via text. I get it.
Fair enough. But we'll give him another minute. How are you otherwise, by the way? Are you celebrating Christmas this year?
So my girlfriend's family are coming into town. So I'll get time with her and them. But I'm actually in the process right now of finishing a move from one apartment to another. It's always stressful to do, certainly around the holidays. Obviously, I've got the multitude of jobs I'm doing, so it's definitely a period of high stress. But no, things are good. And this great news today about Donald Trump being kicked off a ballot because he's an insurrectionist, fascist fuck. I think that's always great. That puts a smile on my face. How are you?
I'm doing great. This is a Christmas. I was like, what am I even going to talk about next week? Like, after I'm going to take Christmas off, obviously, but after that I have shows to do. But what am I even going to talk about? And like a gift from the heavens, right? We have achieved a topic which I think would be very interesting to discuss. So I'm very happy about that. Going to spend time with my family on Christmas and Christmas Eve. But
are you particularly festive? I'm not. Are you a very festive person, like in terms of decoration? Yeah.
No, not particularly. I do enjoy certain things on the holiday though. So I'm probably not gonna go with the extended family type of deal. Like I'm not gonna drive to Florida or anything. Probably, most likely. But I am going to spend time calling my folks, right? I'm going to spend time sending out like Amazon gift cards and things like that, right? So it's not very festive, so to speak, but it is something I'm going to enjoy doing. Does that make sense? And then they'll snacks. Like I think my mom sent me a package yesterday, and it had Reese's peanut butter cups in it and almond joys. It's not a lot, right? But I'm going to enjoy eating them on Christmas. Let's say that.
Yeah. So the reason
you just pronounced 2 candy brands wrong.
Yeah.
Reese's,
And
almond joys.
Wait,
Almond?
what's Reese? Wait, I say Reese's.
Reese's. It rhymes with pieces. Reese's Pieces.
Reese's Pieces?
I've always said Reese's. Yeah,
I've
I know
always said
they try to
Reese's,
rhyme
too.
it. Yeah.
It's
And he-
okay.
And almond,
Allison's now triggered. Allison's holding it
messed up-
back. She's wearing a
messed up
smile, but
Almond
inside
Joy?
she's seething.
he messed up Almond Joy. How did you say it?
Almond Joy.
Almond.
Did
Almond.
I? That was just a mispronouncing. Almond Joy is
Okay.
how you say it. But,
Okay. Okay, fair. Do you say
Demetrium,
pecan or pecan?
Demetrium, gang, it's a call-in show. You can spout off in chat if you'd like, but you can come challenge Josiah directly about this if you'd rather. His chat was...
I can keep it friendly. I like banter. I like going back and forth, but if it helps, I'll be chill. I like the teasing.
He does ask a question. Devil's advocate. Why does Trump need to be blocked from the election anyway? What if 80% of the population wanted him to be president regardless of his guilt status and what officials decide?
I mean, what if 80% of the country wanted a 32-year-old to be president? It's like, well, I mean, too fucking bad if you care about the Constitution. Like, sorry.
Yeah.
Arguably, you know?
Well, no, 100%. So to what I would say is, well, first, I would ask this person if they're a conservative or whatever, because the reason I say this, there is this argument that no matter what, you should defer to the popular whim. So if the Constitution says one thing, but the vast majority or the majority of Americans want him on the ballot, he should be on the ballot regardless. And what's interesting is when I hear conservatives make that argument, it's kind of funny to me because they oppose majority rule in the vast majority of situations, except when it comes to constitutional provisions. But if the question's asked in good faith, I would say this. We have a democratic republic. Not everything is up to popular referendum or popular vote. And I say that as somebody who, since my party generally represents the more popular policies, I wish majority rule were more prominent than what it is. But when it comes to the Constitution, that's the basis on which our entire system of government is founded. So if we get to a point where we have to overturn constitutional provisions because of majority vote, then we have undermined our democratic republic. So you basically have to decide, what are we based on? Are we based on the Constitution?
You turn into a shadow creature.
That's who I am deep down anyway. And I'll tell you why. It's because I have my camera set to 4K when I should have had it set to 1080. So it's like,
okay.
Fuck this.
We're probably going to be wrapping it up anyway. But,
cool.
Finish your thought. And
well, no, that's it. Yeah, it's just, what's the basis for the country? If it's majority rule, just unfettered majority rule under all circumstances, then yeah, I understand where you're coming from. But if the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, even over majority rule, then we have to defer to the Constitution. And the Constitution says that insurrectionists who swore an oath to support the Constitution can't run for office, regardless of how popular they are. So
now, the good news and the bad news both is that the Constitution can be changed. So if enough people do not like what is in the Constitution, that's what we have a process for, to change the Constitution if we need it. And so, again, good and bad. But it is what it is. Josiah, thank you for coming on kind of last minute. I know this was just dropped on us, and I appreciate your political knowledge on the topic, if you will.
Absolutely. Folks, it was nice talking with you. Wick, Allison, it was nice meeting / talking to you. And even the people I was picking on, like even Artemis Fowl, good for you, buddy, jumping in here and taking the banter in stride. I hope all of you have a great rest of the day. And remember, Donald Trump was kicked off the ballot in Colorado, so you have plenty to celebrate this Christmas. I'll talk to you all soon.
See you guys later.
Bye.
It's the void. See, that's what the void looks like, by the way, when you go there. Just nothing. Just blank. It's as if you don't exist. Gang, I sense we're winding down. Allison, can you close us out with a song?
No. But I appreciate your request.
Well, you know what? It's not the first time I've been told no. And it won't be the last time I get told no either.
You're welcome, by the way. I can't fucking sing, so, like, honestly.
Got you. Gang, what do we got coming up? Tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern, we will be asking the question, what is a woman? AI edition. AI girlfriends. Good, bad, dystopian nightmare, useful mental health tool? I don't know. I've gathered a team to discuss. We got Parallax coming on. We got Bryce. We got Portland is Burning. Lumi will be there. And a new addition to our team. Someone who actually works. What is their expertise again? The economics of dating. They have a degree in it. Like there's a little. It's like their literal degree is the economics of dating. They work with the apps and mobile apps and things like that. So that will be an interesting perspective to have on.
The economics of dating.
Yeah, I didn't know it was a thing, but apparently it is. So
okay, so I wonder if this is like, is this like a college that offers this degree specifically and this person acquired it, or is this like a thing where you? I don't know. Never mind. I don't know.
I don't know either. I didn't interrogate it too heavily, but that is what they claim to have and what they claim to have expertise in. So we'll have to see.
Economics of dating.
Gang, we are going to have... Well, I'm not sure if we're going to have a Whickmas stream or not. So you have only a couple more chances before Christmas to give Wick his Christmas wish, which is a boatload of money. I'm talking a boatload, okay? So Twitch is having a sale right now. So I get more for your donations today than I would next year, right? So if you gift some subs, it's 25% off. If you throw bits my way, I get extra bits. If you throw over a certain amount, I think 300. If you throw over 300 bits, I get 10% more than I normally would. So now's the time to shine, gang. If you enjoy this content, if you like what I do, if you enjoy my show, consider super chatting, consider supporting the channel through gift subs or donations of various kinds. All of that is very helpful. Even just liking the stream, even just following me on Twitch, Twitter, Kick, subscribing to my YouTube, all that helps as well. I will see you all tomorrow. Any last words, Allison, before we let them go? Oh, who are we raiding into? Allison, choose. Where are we going?
Well, who are the options?
I don't know. I don't have my streaming up yet. Hold on. We have Nina. We have Mooncake. We have I'm Really Important. Ranger and Rogue.
I'm a Mooncake supporter. We'll go with Mooncake.
Okay. Go to Mooncake. Remember, let everyone know that this is a hate raid, okay? Make sure everyone knows. And I'll see you guys tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern. Allison, thanks once again for joining me here. Really appreciate you. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye. Wave. Bye.
Bye.